Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is polling day. We are finally here. The election, the last 6 weeks of Never Mind The Ballots, daily election countdown. We're going to be live tonight at 10:15 here on Sun's YouTube channel, across the sun.co.uk, all of our social channels. But I thought we'd have a little chat about the election. I've got Noah Hoffman, our political correspondent, Jack Elsom, our chief political correspondent, not wearing a tie, which I think the chief political correspondent should always wear a...
Well, I follow the lead of my boss, obviously.
Wear a tie. Morning, guys. Have you voted yet?
Not yet, but I am very excited to pop to a polling station during a break that you will give me.
As an Australian, you can vote here, of course.
I can. So Commonwealth citizens who live in the UK are entitled to a vote, which is exciting.
Very good. Jack, have you voted?
I have voted. I voted first thing this morning. I'm an early riser.
Very good.
And as is my right to plead the fifth and not tell you how I voted, I'll be keeping that.
Well, so, all right. I voted by post. I voted by post, one of the few people that have managed to vote by post so far this election, obviously. Right, so, who's going to win?
Well, I mean, I think we all know that it will be a Labour probably landslide, but how big the landslide is, how big the supermajority is the question now.
Jack, you agree?
Yeah, I think Labour are nailed on to win this one. The only question remaining is by how much. I actually think that it is quite a big question because if you look at the polls over the past few weeks, there's been big variations in how much they're going to win by. Some have the Tories reduced to a rump of about 50. Some have them hanging on to a much more respectable 155. Either way, it's going to be bad. But how much and how quickly they can rebuild from the ashes of this one remains to be seen.
What happens, though, with the Conservative Party? You know, we're going to enter another leadership election, potentially this summer. The fourth one in as many years? Or I mean, it's slightly mad. I mean, presumably the public is going to be completely disinterested in them. They're going to spend a lot of time in the wilderness and realise, actually, the irrelevance of opposition is quite a painful thing to wake up to.
Yeah, but equally, I know we're all tired of Tory leadership campaigns, but this is quite an important one because it really is a moment where the party resets. And I think what we'll see happen is the two Tory tribes, the One Nation moderates and the more hardliners on the right, really split and really fight for the battle for the soul of the party.
A split within the Conservative Party is nothing new, but I mean, this could be an irreversible split now, right?
Right.
Because, you know, Boris Johnson held that coalition together just about until suddenly he didn't and he got knifed, and Rishi Sunak's clearly been unable to hold that coalition together. Isn't it time for the party to split?
No, I don't think so. I think that politics is very cyclical. And, you know, things come in waves. And every time a party does bad, same with Jeremy Corbyn, same with John Major after 97 and Tony Blair's rout, you always talk about these extinction-level moments. And I just don't think...
What they've never had, though, is Nigel Farage breathing down there.
Well, they have had various guys. They've
had
UKIP, they've had Brexit Party, they had the Referendum Party. You know, we always talk about these extinction-level moments.
700,000 votes, though. Like,
yeah,
not exactly an existential threat.
I understand, but they have been so embedded in Western and British politics for so long now, the Tory party. They have been a ruthless election-winning machine up until this point. And I don't think it is fair just to write them off just because Nigel Farage has come along. He's a massive thorn in the side, but I don't think he's going to be the knockout blow.
You know, I mean, let's not get too technical, but 1840s, 1870s, 1920s, you know, these times that the Tory party do get utterly destroyed and wiped out, it takes them 30 years to come back sometimes.
Yeah, it can do. And they can have a long time in the political wilderness. And it might take them a certain amount of wild infighting and bloodletting, as we saw in the heady days under Tony Blair. They might go through 3-4 different leaders before they win again, if they win again. But they're going to have to do some serious soul searching now because there's going to be a lot of people who say you should have gone right to neuter the threat of reform. There's going to be a lot of people that said you should have stayed in the centre ground to neuter the threat of Labour.
Well, I mean, presumably if you add up, you know, if you look at the last polls before you know, yesterday before polls closed, you know, before polls opened, it was, you know, if you add up reform and the Tory vote, it's bigger than what Labour are expecting to get, right? Labour could win tonight, with a majority, you know, with a share of the vote smaller than Jeremy Corbyn got in 2017. You know, surely the conversation is going to move around now to proportional representation and PR again, isn't it?
Oh, gosh, yeah. So it could do. And we're very much seeing that coming from the Greens, who have had a bit of a surge. And also the Lib Dems are very supportive of this idea as well. I think Labour will very much push back against it.
Well,
it's not with
if they get a wacky majority.
16-year-old voting is fine, but not proportional representation,
is
according to Labour.
Voting fine, though?
No, I mean, it's so clearly... I mean... they're going to do it all legally, but it is very clearly a form of vote rigging because it is obvious that that demographic do lean towards left-wing politics.
Yeah.
That's just how it goes, and it's more of a way to solidify themselves in power. So I think it's fair to argue it's a form of.
Jack, your story though the other day that actually it's not that simple, is it? Because Nigel Farage is going to do almost as well as Labour out of if you give votes to 16-year-olds.
Really, really interesting polling actually, because I think if you think about the typical Reform voter, you probably think older, white working class, Brexiteer. But actually, the polling from JL Partners, which we broke in the Sun a couple of days ago, showed that Nigel Farage would win a quarter of all 16 and 17-year-olds. And we know that
is it now becoming a rebellious thing as a kid to be Reform?
Well, I'm not sure about that.
Would you have been a Reformer at 16?
Because at the moment, if you're a sort of Gen Zer, the standard political view you're supposed to have is very hyper woke, and there's no deviating away from it. And anyone who does is viewed as some sort of horrible fascist traitor. And I think what we're actually seeing is a bit of backlash to that in the form of this support for him.
Nigel Farage, will he be an MP by this time tomorrow morning?
Goodness me, I think he's probably odds on to. I think out of all 7 previous attempts, this is his 8th one. I think it's probably the best shot yet.
Yeah.
He's obviously tapped in across the country to a lot of disillusioned Tory voters. It depends whether or not he can get across the line in Clacton. It looks like it's going to be a knife edge. It depends whether people who want to stop Nigel Farage, the sort of tactical voting brigade in Clacton, coalesce behind the Tory candidate. Because you might see Lib Dems, Labour hold their nose and vote Tory, try and get him out.
They've got the doors to knock on, they know where it is. And it would be an historic swing because obviously Giles Watling won it massively in 2019 because there was no Brexit Party candidate, no UKIP, no Reform then. So Nigel's odds on. Our new Prime Minister entering Downing Street potentially tomorrow as the most unpopular man ever to have been leader of the opposition into power. That's a massive hill to climb, isn't it?
Absolutely, and Labour can pop open the socialist champagne bottles. They can celebrate all they want.
The Bollinger Bolsheviks.
The Bollinger Bolsheviks. They have a mountain to climb. So many people in this election will be lending their vote to Labour, and they'll be doing it through gritted teeth. So if they don't sort out those NHS waiting lines, if they don't sort out the cost of living crisis quickly, I mean, yes, it will take time, but people will want to see change. The boats. If those boats keep coming, they could very well see the number of seats cut back and back and back at the
I'm
next
looking forward
election.
to the first interview that Keir Starmer has to give when he just says, well, morning, Prime Minister, have you smashed the gangs yet? Because that's not a policy, is it, Jack? They're going to need more than that in power than just screaming, smash the gangs.
Yeah, completely. And they've basically managed to coast on that slogan and coast on, the lack of Tory support across the country. It's going to be a completely different kettle of fish when they get into Downing Street and realise that, and this is why Tories get so angry, because they're saying, we are doing work with the gangs to try and smash them, but we can't talk about it because then the gangs would know exactly what we're doing. When Keir Starmer is in that bind, he's going to find it very difficult, especially if we have a big summer of boat crossings, He's hoping for rain, so that it doesn't do it.
Alternatively, the legal migration is going to come down massively just to forecast to because of the changes that the government have made.
Yeah.
There's potential of an interest rate cut in August, definitely September, potentially. Economy picking up in a way that, that Labour would not give them credit for now, but, we are leading ahead of certainly European countries. We could win the Euros still, just about. It could be a summer of love for Keir Starmer, couldn't it? They're handing it to him on a plate.
I'm very doubtful. I think Keir Starmer is going to have one of the shortest honeymoons of any incoming Prime Minister. Because one, I think that inflation is forecast to go back up, and I think that's one of the reasons why the Tories called that early election. But secondly, I think
it's been a long campaign. It's been a very long campaign.
It's
very early in the morning.
Though.
You are. You are always a radiant glow of sunshine.
Ray of sunshine. I do think that the message of change for a lot of people will be welcome. The idea that at the risk of being really cringe, things can potentially get better.
Are you going to sing?
No, not quite yet. I think that could make for quite a happy summer for a lot of people.
Keir Starmer, to go back to the point, has pinned almost everything in his manifesto on achieving what we call growth. Yeah. And it looks like
the last
growth
has tried to do that was Liz Truss.
But we have had anemic growth for the past basically 10 years. I understand it is incredibly important and we need to grow the economy. Anything in his plans to show that he's actually going to achieve that, most economists will look at it and turn their nose up and go, that's not even going to cut the mustard at all for all of the things which you say, not going to put up income tax, national insurance, VAT, because we're going to get this growth. The proof is going to be in the pudding with that one because it doesn't
Anemic
look like
growth.
it.
I saw them at Reading in 2003. My favourite joke, guys. It's going to be a long day. It's going to be a long night. Good luck. I'll see you on the other side. Lots of papers to write. Lots of other things. Don't go anywhere. We will be back as polls close right here on the sun.co.uk, Sun's YouTube channel, at Sun Election, all over social media. In fact, you won't be able to avoid us. Piers Morgan will be with us. Kate Ferguson from the Sun on Sunday with us. Trevor Kavanagh, the godfather of the Sun, will be with us. It's going to be a lovely evening. Don't miss it. See you tonight.